As veteran explorers know, travel comes with so much: joy, discovery, relaxation, adventure, connection, and yes, the occasional mishap. Helping you manage that last bit so that your travels also come with peace of mind is the theme of today's episode, where we'll be looking at travel insurance and cruising in particular. Here to share their considerable insights and experiences are two return guests: Dan Durazo, Director of External Communications at Allianz Partners USA, and Debbie Haas, Vice President of Travel for AAA, the Auto Club Group. We're so happy they're joining us today. Dan and Debbie, welcome to Well Traveled with AAA.
Thank you, Abby. Great to be with you.
Thanks, Abby. It's great to be back.
Well, thank you. Debbie, avid traveler that you are, you've put your own Allianz policies to some serious real-world tests. Maybe before we get into cruise-related specifics, you could give our listeners a sense of just how glad you've been to have had travel insurance on the road.
Absolutely, Abby. I have used Allianz travel insurance for large and small situations that have come up while I've been traveling. The first was while I was in California, and I unexpectedly had a blood clot in my leg, and that turned into a pulmonary embolism. So I spent a Friday afternoon until a Monday morning in the hospital. And in the course of that short period of time, I racked up over $60,000 in medical bills.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was not a good situation. And, and I'm quite a healthy person. And so it was really unexpected. And I was quite fortunate in that I had excellent doctors who got me back on track. But still, these bills were real. And my work through AAA has great insurance. And this was an in-network hospital. But I still had $6,000 out of pocket. And Allianz was able to take care of me for all of that and give me full reimbursement. And that was a domestic situation. If it had been overseas or not in network, it would have been even more extreme.
Clearly, that's a dramatic example of how travel insurance can really come through for you. But when we're talking about cruising, there are also a lot more commonplace reasons to consider a policy. And some of them are pretty surprising. Dan, would you talk our listeners through some of those?
Sure. And I want to mention first, though, that Debbie's example may be dramatic, but it's something that we hear about every day. Our customers are traveling domestically or internationally. The things that can happen while you're traveling are the same things that can happen while you're at home.
Sure.
So it's good to have that medical coverage just in case you need it. But regarding cruising, which is an absolute great way to travel, I think the thing that's most surprising to many people, specifically those who haven't cruised before, is how strict the refund policy is at cruise lines. So you may think if you get sick before your trip or Johnny breaks his wrist falling out of a tree, that the cruise lines are going to give you your money back and you can go another time. That's not the case. So there is a sliding scale for refunds for most cruise lines. And the closer to your cruise that you cancel, the smaller the refund you're going to receive. And if you cancel right before your cruise, you're typically going to get nothing back. So cruising is an investment. And just like you protect your other investments, like your house and your car, you want to protect your travel with travel insurance.
And so what are the more routine situations that might arise?
Sure. So if you have to cancel at the last minute due to an unexpected illness or injury, and those are the things that happen most, there's a long list of what we call covered reasons, which are the reasons which allow you to cancel your trip and be covered by your travel insurance. But the ones that we see most are the illness that Debbie described, or an injury to you, a traveling companion, or a close family member. Those are the things that happen most frequently. Mm-hmm. So if you're covered by travel insurance, then you can get your money back and you can go on your trip another time. But the cruise line typically will not provide you with a refund.
Affordable travel insurance could save you thousands if something goes wrong before or during your cruise, tour, hotel stay, or even car rental. AAA can help you add travel insurance to your vacation, even if you've already booked. Visit AAA.com/travel insurance to learn more. Of course, the occasional medical condition can arise once you're already on your cruise, or at least in your port of embarkation. So, Debbie, unfortunately, you know a little something about that too, right? Would you mind sharing your story with our listeners?
Sure, sure. So I mentioned I had used Allianz travel insurance for a small reason as well. I cut my hand shortly before going to Amsterdam to begin a river cruise. And I thought the cut had healed, so I went about my business. And the second night into the trip, I was awakened in the night by a throbbing finger, and it was so painful. And it was one of these situations where you just know, looking at it and feeling it, that this requires a doctor's care because it's not your typical situation. And so I ended up needing to go in Amsterdam to the doctor and incurred several hundred euros of expense. And that was for my doctor visit, but also for the medicine. And the good news was we were able to get that taken care of, and I was able to get better, and my trip continued. But Allianz made it very easy to get all of that money back. And so you just never know. It's sort of like Dan was saying, life happens when you're traveling. Yeah. And having Allianz travel insurance there to have you have the resources for assistance or for financial reimbursement or for navigating whatever that unexpected covered reason is. Like, you may need help at the hospital with a translator. Those are the kinds of things that really allow you to sit back and enjoy your vacation and know that you've got the resources there when you need them.
Right. And in fact, you know of another person who had a medical mishap on the eve of setting off on a river cruise from Amsterdam, right, Dan? I mean, pure coincidence that it was Amsterdam, of course. But the story might help illustrate just how far travel insurance will really go for you, literally. Would you mind sharing that story?
Sure, I'd be happy to share it. And I hope we're not giving Amsterdam a bad rap here, because Amsterdam is a terrific destination and it's a great place to visit. But we did have a customer that I just went to their house and shot a testimonial video about their story, because it was a story that we thought was important to tell. So our customer was headed out on a European river cruise, and she was with her elderly mother, and they were in Amsterdam. Her mother had been in great health, but unfortunately she broke her hip in the hotel in Amsterdam. Oh. So once they got her to the hospital, our customer was really in a panic when she called us. She just didn't know what to do. She was in a foreign country, in a hospital where not everybody spoke English, and she really was unsure about how to navigate this situation. So fortunately, we have a 24/7 travel assistance team, and that includes medical experts, and we were to provide her with all the support she needed to get through that very difficult situation. And she told us when I was shooting the video that she was instantly relieved, when she got us on the phone and she learned that we were there and we were going to help. So bottom line, we helped manage her mother's medical care. We helped find accommodations for our customer while her mother was in the hospital. And we paid for and arranged their transportation home, including providing a nurse to fly home with them. And we also paid for their missed trip and their medical expenses. And our customer told us that besides having the money reimbursed, the logistical help and the reassurance that we were there to help really made a huge difference. And she's now a huge advocate of travel insurance.
Well, I can only imagine. And had there been no insurance in place, things might have looked a lot different. Protect your travel budget with AAA exclusive Trip Protect from our trusted travel insurance partner, Allianz Global Assistance, custom made for AAA travelers like you. Get a quick quote by visiting AAA.com/travel insurance. Dan, could you touch on some of those alternative scenarios that might surprise passengers?
So one of the things that I don't like about my job is that I get a lot of invitations to do TV interviews, and they're typically from local TV stations, and they have a viewer who is stuck in a foreign country. And the reason they're stuck is because they didn't have travel insurance, they got sick or injured. The local healthcare facility is asking them to pay their bill before they leave, and their friends have a GoFundMe page up. And typically the reporters are asking me, why should you buy travel insurance? And, it's a perfect example, that story. And I always tell them, besides the potentially huge costs of, paying for medical bills and the evacuations, the navigating the logistics is just extremely difficult if you don't have travel insurance. So you really need somebody that you can call, like Debbie did, like our customer did, about her mother, and so that we can help. Travel insurance can reimburse you for a lot of different things. Regarding cruising, some folks end up in the infirmary because, as Debbie said, life happens, and the infirmary is going to charge you for that visit. Travel insurance will refund the cost you paid for that bill, and you won't have to worry about it when you get home.
Well, and speaking of river cruises, as we were in Debbie's case and your customer's case, I know the water levels on the waterways can sometimes come as something of a surprise too. Dan, could you explain how those vary and how insurance can help account for that variation?
Yeah, so it seems as the weather gets strange, water levels are being impacted. So river cruises are terrific. I think they're a great way to see Europe. But since they take place in a river, they can be susceptible to water that is too high or too low for the river cruise ship to navigate. So when that happens, passengers will often be offered a substitute itinerary. You may end up on a bus, and you don't really have much of a choice about whether you want to accept it or not. That's the cruise line provides, and you need to go with it. Or if you have travel insurance coverage that AAA offers, many of our policies include high or low water as a covered reason for trip cancellation or interruption. So what that means is if you know your cruise is going to be impacted by high or low water, you can cancel that for a full refund of your prepaid non-refundable trip costs. And if you're already on your cruise, you may be able to interrupt your cruise and return home and receive a refund for the unused part of your trip. So low water is just a part of life right now. It's good to be protected in case you decide that you don't want to deal with that high-low water situation. You want to go on your trip another time.
And of course, all kinds of weather-related conditions can affect a planned cruise. Hurricanes may be the most topical as we speak. But Debbie, you also hear from AAA members who want a clearer understanding of what recourse they have during winter storms. Could you share the main concern there?
Well, in the case of winter storms, if you're coming from a frozen spot, maybe a little more north, you might find that you have flight delays. And travel insurance through Allianz is great because we have coverages that allow for benefits as soon as with a 3-hour delay. And the coverages don't stop there. They also can help you if you end up missing your cruise. There are coverages that can help you catch up to the cruise. If you find that this is your situation, you will get great peace of mind and benefit from having an Allianz travel insurance policy. And just more broadly, when you think about weather and natural disasters like hurricanes, as long as you're buying the policy before that weather event is known, you can have that additional peace of mind knowing that you'll have Allianz by your side to help you adapt to the circumstance and get those financial benefits that you deserve. I mean, one of the things that we've all seen a lot of in recent years are challenges with flights, and sometimes those look like lost baggage, which is also the situation that our Allianz travel insurance can help with. And there are other situations where maybe you have delays in your trip that ultimately occur, and that can result in you losing some of your prepaid trip costs. And all of these circumstances are areas where you can talk with a AAA travel advisor and learn more, and we can consult with our Allianz partners and get the specifics that relate to your trip.
Getting ready to travel? Make sure you and your travel investment are protected with travel insurance so you can do more and worry less. For more information, visit AAA.com/travel insurance. Dan, what would you say to those members or to anyone who's concerned about hurricanes or other weather-related disruptions to their cruises?
That's a great question. And we are now at the beginning of hurricane season, and it's predicted to be a very busy hurricane season this year. I'd say my top tip is to talk to your AAA travel advisor about your travel insurance options while you're discussing your itinerary. So they're in a great position to offer a product that best fits your trip because they understand the details of your trip and the specific needs of the folks traveling with you. Also, don't wait to buy your insurance because once a storm is named, it's too late to buy insurance to protect yourself from that storm. So buy your insurance when you book your trip. That is really my top tip. Buy your insurance when you book your trip. One other tip I have, you may want to consider, before you leave on your trip, downloading the free Allianz Travel Smart mobile app. You can take that on your trip, and the app allows you to download and take your travel insurance policy with you. You can file a claim directly from that app, and you can also reach our 24/7 travel assistance team with just the touch of a button. So think about downloading that before you go.
Thank you. And Debbie, anything that you wanted to add about the longstanding partnership with AAA and Allianz?
Absolutely. So we have been partners for over 30 years. And during that time, Allianz has really gotten to know our member travel habits and needs, and we talk with them on an ongoing basis about how we would like to see the products evolve to best meet our traveler needs. So the high water, low water coverage that Dan discussed earlier is something that came out of that type of discussion. And it is unique to the offering that we have through AAA. And so it truly is something you're not going to get from others. And so we do encourage you to contact a AAA travel advisor because, we can help you. Even if you've already booked your trip on your own, we can still work with you to add relevant travel insurance as long as you haven't departed on your trip. And if you want to do some investigation on your own, take a look at AAA.com/travel insurance. And you can see more information about the types of things we're talking about here, some videos. You can also do a self-quote or even purchase a policy. So again, that's AAA.com/travel insurance.
My last question for both of you, which you've answered in the past, but perhaps your answers have evolved with time. What does well-traveled mean to you?
So I'll comment. In this context that we're talking about today, I think well-traveled means that you have the resources and tools as part of your plan to allow you to fully embrace the experiences of your vacation. And travel insurance is a piece of that. Because travel insurance really helps protect you and your wallet for things that happen before and during your trip. And you can just really relax and enjoy yourself when you have a policy that you've booked through AAA and have that policy with Allianz.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. And I think well-traveled means a lot to me. And certainly in this conversation, working with a AAA travel advisor is a great way to be well-traveled, being protected by Allianz Travel Insurance is a great way to be well-traveled. For my personal travel plans, I'm headed to Istanbul later this year. It's been on my bucket list for a while, and I'm really excited because I'm traveling with travel suppliers that I love, and I'm heading to what I think will be a very interesting destination. So for me, right now, well-traveled means the chance to enjoy both the destination and the journey to get there, which I think is really important for all travelers.
Well, that's a great note to leave it on, and thank you both so much again.
You can find all of our interviews with other travel experts from around the world on the Well Traveled with AAA feed on iTunes and Spotify. We hope you'll rate us or leave a comment and let us know what you think. I'm Abby Kozolczyk. Thanks for listening.